Lee is heading elsewhere as the Warriors lose another piece off their bench. He's taking a one-year deal with the Phoenix Suns, according to Adrian Wojnarowski.
Yeah, obviously a couple guys that have departed this title team. You have Lee recently going to the Suns on a one-year deal. You lost Otto Porter Jr. to the Toronto Raptors. You lose Gary Payton II to the Portland Trail Blazers. So 5 total players that they have lost in free agency. But you do bring back Kevon Looney. I think you feel pretty good about Kuminga and some of the other young pieces you have on this team. Golden State's going to be just fine. These are just a couple guys that they lost, a bunch of role players.
Yeah, I think you look at that list there and you say, okay, Gary Payton II, Otto Porter, those are real losses. They were in the rotation. Porter started some games in the finals. Payton, I thought his reemergence from the injury was big for them. Those are notable losses. Nemanja Bjelica, he wasn't playing much in the playoffs. Juan Toscano-Anderson was just part of the bench mob, as was Damion Lee. So I'm with you for the most part, Will. Yeah, you're not going to be able to keep everybody if you're Golden State when you have the contracts that you do with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Wiggins, who, by the way, is probably going to get an extension soon, as is Jordan Poole. You're seeing guys like Darius Garland will get 5-year maxes. Poole's going to get close to that probably. He's probably going to get $30 million a year if Jalen Brunson got 27. So you got to let some of these guys go if you are Golden State. So Damion Lee, the latest to go for the Warriors. I'm not super concerned. I do think adding a piece or two, Will, to round out that bench makes sense. We saw Dante DiVincenzo yesterday. I think he helps do that. Obviously, Looney is back. I don't think the Warriors are necessarily done adding to this roster.
No, I don't think so either. And yeah, most of the really solid free agents have already been scooped up. But if you're Golden State and Bob Myers, you still have some options on the table. And I guarantee you a lot of guys are going to be willing to take pay cuts to come play for a team like Golden State. And my message to Warriors fans, I know some are concerned about some of the guys they've lost. Trust Bob Myers. He's the best GM in basketball. He knows what he's doing. I guarantee you he's drinking a pina colada on a beach in Mexico right now, but he's still on the phone making moves, trying to figure out a way to make Golden State even better.
Yeah, you just got to find this year's Otto Porter, right? You got him on a vet min deal last year. Find someone who can play a role on the vet minimum. There's guys out there. We'll talk about one in a second that maybe could fill a similar role, so stay tuned for that. But do want to ask, what is the biggest loss for the Warriors in free agency up to this point? I think it's either GP2 or Otto Porter Jr. I think it's one of those. This will be the pinned comment on today's video, so let us know down there, and then we'll give our thoughts and then jump to the next story in just a moment. Biggest loss in free agency. Serge Ibaka, Will. Could Serge Ibaka be one of those guys we're talking about that comes in on a vet minimum deal and plays a vital role on a championship team? Fansided proposed this idea of signing him.
Yeah, I like Serge, and I think it makes some sense. It would add some front court depth. And Serge has been, good throughout his entire career. I understand that he's a little bit older, 32 years old now, but when you look at what he did last season for Milwaukee, 7 points per game. So, yeah, I like Serge. I think it makes some sense, and I think you could be able to get him. I think you're going to be able to get him for pretty cheap if you do pursue.
Yeah,
Serge
I think
Ibaka.
he's a vet min guy at this point. He wants to play for contenders. Didn't crack the playoff rotation for the Bucks, which surprised me a little bit after getting traded from the Clippers in the middle of the year. But he's one of those guys who, you look at the last several years of his career, he's always on contending teams. He was on the Clippers a couple years ago. He was on the Raptors championship team. Obviously, was a part of those Thunder teams that had success with Durant and Westbrook back in the day. And what's crazy, you just said it. Yeah, he's getting older. 32 is not that old.
Right.
Like, maybe he's an old 32, but even if he's 34, 35 in terms of mileage on the body, I think he can eat some minutes off the bench. I like the versatility. We still don't know what James Wiseman and his role is going to be, assuming he can even get healthy, by the way. He says he's about 90% right now. But I think Ibaka could give you some insurance there as well with that versatility to play the 4 or the 5. Certainly not the player he was, but this is the type of player you sign if you're Golden State, to be like, hey, come be our 10th, 11th player in the rotation. Give us a few minutes from time to time.
Right, and give him a chance to win a ring, too. And when you look at Serge, you mentioned the fact that he's been on contending teams throughout his entire career. I don't think he's going to want to take a pay cut and go to a team that really isn't all that good. He's got an opportunity to come to Golden
Detroit.
State. Exactly. He's not going to Detroit on a vet minimum deal.
No.
So I think Golden State does make some sense. I would have them as one of the teams to monitor here for Serge. I think the Boston Celtics are another team that might be interested in pursuing Serge. Just teams that are looking to add some depth with the front court.
Yeah, and I mean, look, you've lost 5 players. You've brought back a couple. You add DiVincenzo.
DiVincenzo is huge.
Yeah, so you do the math. You got a couple roster spots to work with here. If you are Bob Myers and Steve Kerr, I think Serge Ibaka could be a guy. I wonder if they would flirt with a guy like DeMarcus Cousins potentially, go back down that well. He actually played kind of decent for
Hassan Whiteside's still out there, too.
Whiteside's still out there. So there's guys in the front court, especially if you want to add there. Maybe you try to target a wing out on the open market as well. So we'll ask you guys, do you want the Warriors to go out and sign Serge Ibaka? Let us know in the comment section down below. Do you want Golden State to go out and sign Serge Ibaka? Give me an S for sign or a P for pass. Also hit that subscribe button here on Warriors Today as we continue here. More Warriors news and rumors to come here on the channel, so don't miss out on any of it. YouTube.com/Warriors TV. Will, how do you feel overall about the moves that have been made to this point? We've outlined it a little bit, but maybe give us a few thoughts on DiVincenzo.
I love DiVincenzo, and when I saw that news break last night, I'm like, oh man, he is going to do some damage in Golden State. And you look at a couple players, Andrew Wiggins being one of them. I'm not necessarily comparing DiVincenzo to Wiggins, but guys resurrect their career when they go to Golden State. That's just a fact. Golden State, the talent around that team makes them better. DiVincenzo, who struggled last year, disappointed a little bit, that's exactly what he needs to go to a team like Golden State. And I think he's going to be in this rotation and have a pretty big impact off the bench as a shooter, and you get him on a very, very cheap deal, 2 years, $9.3.
Yeah, Chase Sr. and I broke this down last night when he signed. I don't feel like he's reached his potential yet.
No.
I think he can play better than he has in the NBA, and I think a place like Golden State that has developed a lot of talent. Gary Payton's a perfect example. He bounces around the G League for a while, finds a spot with the Warriors, and now he's getting a 3-year, $28 million deal with the Portland Trailblazers. So I think he's a perfect example of DiVincenzo. Come in here. You've got some upside as a 3-and-D type of player. I'll be curious to see if he can fill one of those voids with a guy like Otto Porter leaving and a GP2 leaving as well. Another reminder to subscribe for agency news and rumors around the Golden State Warriors coming at you multiple times a day during free agency. You guys have been loving these videos, so continue to watch them, spread the word, hit that sub button. We're almost at 36,000 subscribers. YouTube.com/Warriors TV. Myself, Chase Sr., Will Scott from time to time, keeping you guys up to date. So just to kind of outline again the guys that Golden State have lost: Gary Payton II, Otto Porter Jr., Nemanja Bjelica, Juan Toscano-Anderson, and Damion Lee. Let's circle back to the first question we asked the audience. Do you think Otto Porter or Gary Payton is a bigger loss? Will, what do you think on that front?
Yeah, I would say Otto Porter Jr. I think that's the bigger loss. I think both of those guys certainly had, fairly big impact on this team. But if I had to say one, I would say Otto Porter Jr. He's just a very well-rounded player, a pretty reliable guy off the bench.
Yeah, I would concur. I think GP2 long-term could be a bigger loss because he's younger, but I think currently maybe Otto Porter Jr. is the bigger loss. All right, we'll end on this question. What's the best free agent left? Who is it? Is it, whether it's someone you think could fit the Warriors, or if you just want to throw, James Harden out there, whoever it is. Best free agent left, let us know in the comment section. All right.